So we just had a week off, and as standard, I've come in unprepared. I haven't really researched the card too much because I enjoy my weeks off. I'm making videos almost every day, and I'm working full time and stuff like that. So I'm a pretty busy guy. So I haven't actually done full research on this one. So as usual, what I'm going to do here is my quick picks video, and then in 48 hours time, my full card breakdown and prediction. So you can look forward to that. But for now, let's just go through some real quick picks and some quick breakdowns. I'm feeling like Bert MMA right now, making a few videos on the same card. Shout out to Bert. That man posts so many videos. It's insane, his work rate. But yeah, Jessica Penne versus Tabitha Ricci. This was meant to be Ricci versus Shan Vlisma. Shan Vlisma's pulled out for some reason. She's probably in Georgia somewhere in Roman Dolidze's basement. But yeah, I'm going to be picking Tabitha Ricci in this one here. Jessica Penne taking the fight on somewhat short notice. She's almost 40 years old now. The fights that she's winning, I mean, the split decision win over Lupita Godinez, I don't think she won that fight. And then she got her legs kicked off by Emily Dakota only a couple of months ago. So she's obviously really trying to make something happen in her career at the very end. I mean, I don't really understand why else she would respond with a super quick turnaround. She's obviously trying to make something happen now and be a little bit more active than the time when she took a lot of time off for you know what. But yeah, Tabitha Ricci, I think she should win this one. She's going to get takedowns, or that's what she's going to look to try and do, and then use her grappling. She hasn't got a submission in the UFC yet, and don't know if it will be over Penne, so I'll pick Ricci to kind of grind out a decision on the ground. I don't think it will be a very exciting fight. Speaking of trying to grind out a decision on the ground, I think Ali Latifi is going to attempt to do that against Alexei Oleinik, but is that the most logical pathway to try and defeat Alexei Oleinik? Possibly not. I mean, Ali Latifi, he's a wrestler. He's fighting Alexei Oleinik, who has got an insane amount of submissions on his record as well, and he's got 60 wins, 16 losses. Like, this guy's very experienced, but he's 45. Ali Latifi is almost 40 years old himself. It's such a tough fight to predict because I could definitely see Oleinik locking up a sub from bottom, because Ali Latifi probably will be the one looking to initiate some wrestling, and we did just see Jared Vanderaa look to wrestle with Alexei Oleinik, which Jared Vanderaa won't wrestle Chase Sherman, but he'll wrestle Alexei Oleinik. But it's what it is. I'm siding with Ali Latifi. I can't be confident in this one though. Like, it's a weird one. It's been tried to book so many times. I'm going with Latifi. It's kind of weird. I think Latifi's gonna look to wrestle, or at least grind up against the cage maybe. Another fight where someone's gonna look to wrestle. I think Felipe Lins is gonna try and look for some takedowns on Maxim Grishin, but I think Maxim Grishin should be able to win this one here. Both guys, though, I think it's pretty fair to say they're out of their prime. Felipe Lins come into the UFC of winning the $1 million in PFL, and he didn't impress, to be fair. He didn't show up as what the UFC probably expected him to. They gave him a debut against Arlovsky, and he lost that one there. And then he got knocked out by Tanner Boser. But he recently bounced back against Marcin Prachnio. Now he's taking on Maxim Grishin, who fought William Knight when William Knight weighed in like 218 pounds for a 205 pound fight, and he won. So yeah, Grishin's a savage for that. I think he's the better striker in the matchup. He's going to want to keep the fight on the feet. Got to go with Grishin by decision on this one here. We move on. Joaquim Silva versus Jesse Ronson, if it will let me open the link. Thank you. I'm going to be going with Joaquim Silva here. It's a weird one. Jesse Ronson, he had that time off because I believe he popped under USADA. Come back, got out wrestled by Rafa Garcia, and then submitted. Joaquim Silva's a better jiu-jitsu player than Rafa Garcia, in my opinion. I think he's going to try and do that same sort of thing, but yeah, Joaquim Silva's one of those guys that you'll kind of want to fade at this point of his career. He hasn't fought for over a year, and he's been knocked out twice in his last two fights, which is not a good sign. When you're fighting Jesse Ronson, though, I don't know. At 37-year-old Jesse Ronson, it'll be interesting to see if he can KO Silva, but I'm thinking Silva is going to look for a takedown. I'm actually going to pick him by submission in this one here. I think he might lock something up towards the end of the fight. Now, Yulia Stoliarenko taking on Chelsea Chandler at 140 pounds. I have absolutely no idea why it's at 140. I think it was originally booked for 145. I could be mistaken there. I think it was actually originally booked for 135 maybe. And now it's moved to 140. I never thought that I would ever pick Yulia Stoliarenko to win a fight in the UFC. And I'm going to do it here. Chelsea Chandler, she could prove me wrong, and there's a very good chance that she does prove me wrong, but I think she's gotten signed to the UFC a little bit too early, and I think that she might be like a little bit overrated. I mean, she's beating these girls 4-2, 4-0, 3-0, 2-0, but most of these girls either haven't fought since or haven't won since. Like, they're not well-aging wins. Like, at the time, they had a good record, and then from there, they haven't looked amazing. It was just Stoliarenko. At least she's been in the UFC for a while. Yeah, she's been losing to fighters that she probably should be beating if she wants to still be on the roster, but Stoliarenko, she just got her first win in the UFC over Jessica Rose Clark, who cannot defend an armbar for her life, so I don't know. I'm actually going to pick Yulia Stoliarenko to win by decision. By submission on this one here. It's kind of the only thing that she brings to the game, though, is a good jiu-jitsu game off her back. Chelsea Chandler. Yeah, she's got good jiu-jitsu herself, but I haven't seen it against good competition. I mean, you could say the same about Stoliarenko. She's been losing to in the UFC, and then she beat Jessica Rose Clark, who's like bottom of the barrel UFC fighter. So yeah, I don't know. That's not a fight I would touch with my money. Brendan Allen versus Kristoff Jotko. There's a little bit of a storyline to this one. It's actually kind of an interesting one. I don't know what happened, but Brendan Allen has been calling out Kristoff Jotko, and the fight has finally been booked. I don't know what instigated some sort of like beef or whatever between the two, but I think Brendan Allen put something up on his story, and Jotko responded on his Instagram story as well. And I don't know what the story is. Maybe they used to train together, something like that. But for some reason, Allen doesn't like Jotko. I think Allen should win, though. He's got the grappling advantage out of the two. I think he's going to look to wrestle and grapple with Jotko. He's been in the UFC for a very long time for such a young guy. I think he beat Jacob Malkoon. I think some people thought that was a controversial decision. I thought it was pretty clear. I mean, there's an argument he won all 3 rounds, to be honest. But yeah, Allen is the pick here. Most people picking Allen. I think that he should win the matchup. He's not a bad striker, Allen. He looked terrible against Chris Krohus, but he should look to wrestle and grapple with Jotko. But a win over Gerald Meerschaert these days ain't looking bad, is it? Yeah, let's move on. Randy Costa versus Guido Canidi. If Guido Canidi is still on the UFC roster after this fight, they have to do Guido Canidi versus Hal Rosas Jr., because Guido Canidi will be like 43 years old by the time that fight rolls around, and Hal Rosas Jr. would have just turned 18, because I think Hal Rosas Jr. turns 18 next month, so he'll be like the youngest fighter on the roster, fighting Guido Canidi, who's 43. I mean, that would be legendary, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm the only person that thinks it's a good idea, but both guys are probably fighting for their career at this point. I know Guido Canidi knocked out Chris Martino, but that is Chris Martino. He really was only brought in to fight O'Malley on short notice. And now Randy Costa, yeah, he hasn't looked amazing. I mean, I think he might have also got signed too early to the UFC as well. He wasn't very experienced when he got signed, but he come in with a big KO over Boston Salmon, big KO over Joni Newsom, and then he looked pretty good against Adrian Yanez. He posed some problems against Yanez early on, and then he lost to Tony Kelly, which isn't the best look in the world, unfortunately, for him. But Guido Canedi's 43. I thought that Chris Martino was going to beat Guido Canidi, and Guido Canidi just knocked him out, which is so strange because O'Malley couldn't do that. But yeah, Costa really should have this one. If Costa loses this one, he's not going to be in the UFC. And I don't think he would be re-signed to the UFC for a while. I think he'd have to really build his way back up. So there's a lot of pressure on Costa to win this fight, in my opinion. Now, Mike Davis versus Vyacheslav Borshev. I've got so much stock in Vyacheslav Borshev. I'm not prepared to give up now. I know he's taking the fight on short notice. I got dominated in the wrestling by Mark Giacchese, who recently just started wrestling out of nowhere because he was a striker, and then I think his career kind of got on the line, and he's like, you know what, time to wrestle. Borshev, man, I like this guy. I like Borshev. You know, I actually I thought that I picked him to beat Chris Duncan, but I actually lied. I picked Chris Duncan to win that matchup, but I did say something along the lines of I wouldn't be surprised if Borshev wins, because this guy's striking background is insane. He's got like over 200 amateur kickboxing fights, I think it is, or maybe it's boxing fights. But I know that he was a Russian national champion in kickboxing and under 21s and this and that. Like, this guy's got a insane kickboxing background. He's now training for Team Alpha Male, trying to obviously improve that wrestling, get a bit more of a well-rounded skill set, but unfortunately it's not working for him. Mark Diakase unfortunately exposed that to him, but Mike Davis, for the most part, he striked with Mason Jones. He knocked out Thomas Gifford. He does have wrestling in the back pocket, and I think that if he wants to use it, it's in this matchup. I'm still going with Borshev, though. I mean, I can't give up on my boy, you know? If he loses this one, it's time for me to step back and jump off the hype train. But I'm still on the hype train, man. In fact, I'm the conductor of the Vyacheslav Borshev hype train right now. If he loses to Mike Davis, it's going off the rails. But yeah, I'm still gonna go with Vorshchev. I think he's just the much better striker. I think that I rate Vorshchev's striking very, very highly. Maybe too highly, to be honest, but I think he should be able to get the job done. Sadiq Yusuf versus Don Chinese. I originally picked Sadiq Yusuf by late finish, but I'm actually thinking that he might get a knockout in the first round, and that's a really weird thing to say because Sadiq Yusuf is not known for finishes, especially at the UFC level. He hasn't got a knockout in a while. He hasn't got a knockout since 2019, and the last time he got a knockout was against Suman Mkhitaryan, and it's not really a good win, to be honest. But yeah, he's not really known for getting KOs. I mean, he does have 6 KOs on his record, but they're early on in his career. But Don Chinese, man, I'm not too sold on this guy. This guy really is going to look for the KO in the first round. He's on a good first round KO streak, including one over the GOAT, Jay Ellis. I mean, Jay Ellis beat Gerald Meerschaert back in the day, so technically Don Chinese beat Gerald Meerschaert. Anyway, Don Chinese, I mean, I put a lot of stock into this win over Cody Fisper, but I watched that fight, and then Cody Fisper looked terrible. In that fight, he knocked him out in the first round. I think he knocked out Bryce Bucheld in the first round as well. But he's so much smaller than Sadiq. He's going to be 3 inches shorter. He's going to have a massive reach disadvantage. He's going to be trying to close the distance. And Sadiq Yusuf isn't going to let him do that, you know. I just don't see a world where Don Chinese is closing the distance on a top 15 UFC fighter at this point in his career. I think that we're going to see Yusuf get a KO in the first round. And also, it's so weird that Sadiq Yusuf decided to fight in 3 weeks from now because he flew to Vegas, expecting to fight in Vegas last weekend. And I know for a fact, I know for a fact that people put their name in to fight Yusuf. In fact, I actually know one name because I was actually talking to him about it. And Yusuf didn't want to fight that weekend, it seems, even though he flew to Vegas. It was a weird situation, but I guess he's got a win here. I think he's like minus 850 favorite as well, so good for him. Now, Hayoni Barcelos versus Trevin Jones. I'm actually picking Barcelos in this matchup here. I think there's a few people on Jones. There's not. Interesting. I saw a poll on Instagram on some other person's Instagram page, and Trevin Jones was the favorite in that poll. So maybe that is to have a lot of Trevin Jones fans, followers, but I think that's fair. Trevin Jones is an underrated fighter. You know, he came on short notice, knocked out Chimaev and then popped for something. I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been marijuana, but came back, knocked out Mario Batista, and then he lost to Said Jakub Kakramonov, who we've now learned is really good. And then he lost to Javid Basharat, who we've now learned is really good. But Hayoni Barcelos has been like that top 16 guy, like that 16th ranked fighter for a while, like the guy that you have to get through if you want to get into the rankings. He just never ended up being a ranked fighter himself. It's kind of a shame that he never really popped into the rankings and tried to go on a run, because by the time that he could, he lost to Valiev, and then he lost to Victor Henry, who put a pace on him. It was absolutely insane, that fight, and Victor Henry's going to be fighting somewhat soon again, which is exciting. But yeah, I'm going to have to pick Hayoni Barcelos by decision in this matchup here. I think Trevin Jones is good. He's a lot better than his record says. But I think I'm just going to have to go with Barcelos. He's a little bit more proven to me at the UFC level. John Castaneda, same sort of thing, you know. A little bit more proven to me at the UFC level. Daniel Santos got signed to the UFC. Fought for the first time in about 2.5 years when he took on Julio Arce. And that was a competitive fight. It was a very fun fight. Daniel Santos, what he brings is like that shoot box style, you know what I mean? A very aggressive striking style. But I think that this is just a weird fight, because John Castaneda's on a win streak right now. Recently beat Miles Johns. So he probably should be a lot higher ranked than a guy that is 0-1 in his UFC career right now. Maybe they want to get John Castaneda on a win streak potentially. But yeah, I'm going to have to put Castaneda here. I think he's going to actually look to grapple with Santos. I don't know, man. I don't really understand why this fight's been booked, man. Like, when you got Daniel Santos, who's 0-1 in the UFC, why are you putting him in there with a guy that's on a 2-fight win streak right now in Castaneda? You know what I mean? It's a strange one, man, but it is what it is. I'm going to be picking Castaneda to win. Randy Brown versus Francisco Trinaldo. I mean, it's so hard to pick against the GOAT. Francisco Goat Naldo. I mean, he's 44 years old. He's still doing it. He's still beating people up, man. He didn't get a KO over Danny Roberts, who's got like no chin whatsoever. But yeah, man, this guy just still has power in the hands. He's still doing it. He's 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Randy Brown manages his distance pretty well. I think he lost to Chaos Williams, and that might be the why he's not getting a step up in the rankings, because I think the UFC probably thought that he lost as well. So it'll be interesting to see who they match Chaos Williams up with next. But yeah, I think Randy Brown should win this one. He uses his size pretty well, uses his reach pretty well. He doesn't throw the most volume in the world, but it should be enough to beat Trinaldo, at least keep Trinaldo at distance. Trinaldo's going to look to close out the distance, maybe even clinch a little bit, and throw some heavy shots. If Trinaldo wins this one, I mean, I'll be surprised. But that man is 44 years old right now. Still looking good. It's kind of crazy. But Mackenzie Dern versus Yanan Yan. That video that people show and share around of Dern's accent changing is actually incredible. Like, her accent, man, it's one of the mysteries of MMA. Like, it has to be fake, right? I think even one time she brought in a translator when, like, she grew up in USA. Like, she can speak fluent English, and she brought in a translator or something. I don't know what she's trying to achieve with this fake accent, but I'm picking Yanan Yan to win the fight, actually, by the way. Mackenzie Dern's a horrible striker, and her wrestling isn't much better. Yanan Yan has struggled to wrestlers in the past like Carla Esparza, but the difference in Carla Esparza and Mackenzie Dern's wrestling is night and day. Yanan Yan's so much better of a striker. In fact, I actually think that she beat Marina Rodriguez in a fight that took place on the feet. I thought Yanan Yan won the first 2 rounds, and I picked Marina Rodriguez. And in fact, actually, I had Marina Rodriguez in a parlay in that fight, and I still thought that Marina Rodriguez lost. But yeah, Yanan Yan, I think she's gonna beat Dern. I think she keeps the fight on the feet and just boxes her up for a few rounds. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen that happen when Marina Rodriguez did that to her, and then she, I don't know, that was a weird decision against Teja Torre. I'm just not sold on Dern. I'm really not. Like, I know that she's very marketable. I know that a lot of people love her. I don't really see it. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. She definitely got some good attributes about her, for sure. But I don't know if I'm seeing like the same thing that everyone else is. But I'm gonna be going with Yan in this one here, and I wouldn't be that surprised if we see a finish from Yan here, because Dern's striking actually is terrible. But Yan's a really good boxer. She trains at a Team Alpha Male, so she's obviously working on that wrestling as well. She should have beaten Marina Rodriguez. She got robbed, in my opinion. I think that she should be able to box up Mackenzie Dern for 5 rounds, you know. If the fight is the floor, though, it is over. It probably is over. I think Dern probably will lock something up, but I don't think it gets there. I think Yan's going to beat her up on the feet badly enough that Dern's not going to be able to close the distance and use her wrestling. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, that's my prediction. 17-minute video. It's a lot longer than I thought it would be. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll probably make some sort of video tomorrow about Dana White's Contender Series, who should debut, this and that. And then, yeah, I'll give my full card predictions in 48 hours. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.